Wait. Welcome everyone to the regular meeting of council, Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, first meeting of the year. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Nlaka'pamux and Syilx people. Late items. I don't think we have any. Public input. Do we have any? No public input. Excellent. 4.1, special council meeting minutes, December 16th, 2025. Recommendation that the minutes of the special council meeting held on December 16th, 2025 be adopted. Councilor Baxter, Councilor Petrosi, any errors or omissions on that one? Councilor Richard? No. No, okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. General matters, delegations and recognitions. 5.1, inclusive housing to be presented by, I'm going to kill your name, sorry about this, Teru Tamian, Regional Housing Leader, Tammy Pedersen, Self-Advocacy Leader, Tony Cugliata, Self-Advocacy Leader with Community Living BC. I'm assuming they're going to be online. Yes, there they are. Can you hear us? You might be on mute.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, it's over to you.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, wait, we'll just set up here. Just take a moment.
You bet.
All right, just confirming you guys can hear us okay and see our slides?
You bet. We can see you.
Perfect. Hello. I would like to start off by acknowledging that the land that we are gathered on here today as the traditional unceded territories of the many nations, including the Secwépemc territory and the many traditional territories of the Métis people. My name is Tammy Pedersen, and I live on my own. I'm a self-advocate leader and the chair for the Community Living BC Thompson Cariboo Community Council. Thank you for having us here today to present to you on inclusive housing, a topic that I'm very passionate about.
Hello, my name is Tony Cugliata. I live on my own. I'm a member of Community Living BC Thompson Cariboo Community Council. I'm a self-advocate leader. I'm excited to present to you on the topic of inclusive housing.
Hello, and my name is Teru Tamian, and I am the Regional Housing Lead covering the Thompson Cariboo and Northern BC. I will do a brief overview of our organization. Community Living BC, or CLBC for short, is a government agency that funds supports and services for adults 19 and over with a development alcohol spectrum disorder or autism spectrum. We currently provide services to approximately 29,000 individuals across the province with an expected growth rate of approximately 4% annually over the next 5 years. CLBC funds supports and services for people to live, work, and participate in their community. And there are approximately 117 CLBC eligible individuals currently living in the community of Merritt. And here are a look at some of the numbers, CLBC detailed numbers. So you might have heard that people with diverse abilities live in institutions, but thankfully this is now in our history and we have come a long way with the last institution closing in 1996. Here are some numbers that outline where people with diverse abilities are currently living today. You will notice that more than 18,000 individuals are living with their families. And based off of current available data, there are also 737 individuals with no fixed address. Studies show that adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities are more likely to live in poverty than other Canadians, and they are also overrepresented among the homeless population.
Over 5,000 people with diverse abilities across the province are looking for homes of their own. As seen in the previous slide, many live with aging parents or caregivers because there is nowhere else for them to go. CLBC supported individuals make up the estimated 23% of all the BC residents with a disability, receiving persons with disability benefits or PWD. Those on PWD receive a shelter allowance of only $500 a month. The Canadian Rental Housing Index puts the average rent for a studio apartment in BC at over double our shelter allowance. These numbers highlight the need for more partnerships that will lead to dedicated, deeply subsidized units and inclusive housing.
Today, we want to focus on inclusive housing. Inclusive housing means having access to the same choice about where you live as everyone else. It's the key to independence, stability, and belonging. We firmly believe that every community benefits from inclusive housing because it's created in neighborhoods that are affordable and accessible and welcoming to the people of all abilities. Inclusive housing is when someone has a choice over their living space. It's when housing is physical accessibility and close to a community, and when housing is affordable.
Inclusive housing is when there is diversity. Neighbors have different interests and backgrounds. We do not all live in one building as we are avoiding congregation. Inclusive housing provides stability and allows for support services in people's homes.
This is my story. When my dad passed away, I stayed with my mom to take care of her. Over time, she developed dementia and often became angry. Her health declined, and she asked me to leave. I had nowhere else to go, so I stayed in a men's shelter for about 6 months. It was a very hard time. I didn't feel safe, but it was my only option. My brother and niece helped me find a duplex to live in, and later moved into my own condo. I struggled with a debt, and although friends helped me for a while, I couldn't afford to keep the condo. I paid off my debt and found a place to live on my own for 10 years. Before moving into my current home, subsidizing housing. Now I'm living in a quiet area with affordable rent with kind of diversity neighbor. It's close to a bus route, which makes it easier. I would like to see more activities in my building to bring people together and better bus service to connect to other parts of Kamloops. I care deeply about exclusive housing because, as my story shows, having a safe and affordable home makes a huge difference in the quality of the life.
This is my story. When I lived on the coast, I lived on my own and worked 3 jobs. Over time, it became too expensive to live there, so I had to move back to Kamloops. First, I lived with my dad, then I moved in with my mom. So about 6 years ago, my mom told me it was time for me to live independently. I found support to help me look for housing and moved into a place of my own. But unfortunately, that home had mold and I had to move out. Now, I live in a 1-bedroom apartment building with a walk-in shower. My mom lives there too, in the same building, but we each have our own apartment, so we're neighbors. It's quiet, inclusive, and everyone is kind. I feel welcome there. My rent is subsidized, which makes it affordable for me. It's important for people with disabilities to live in homes that are accessible, where everything like laundry, counters can be used easily, and where people feel safe, welcome, and part of their community.
Inclusive housing benefits everyone. It strengthens communities and fosters belonging. These strategies can also help developers gain community buy-in and align with public expectations for accessible, community-integrated housing models. Accessible designs support people not only with disabilities, but it can help make spaces more welcoming for seniors and those with physical limitations as well. Safer and inclusive neighborhoods encourage long-term residency and deepen community ties. Inclusive housing not only positively contributes to one's social quality of life, but it contributes to healthy, thriving, and vibrant communities where individuals can share their talents and live their best lives.
Inclusive housing needs to be a priority for all communities. Not all of us want to live in a group home or home share. We want to have the same options as everyone else, but we have to be able to afford it. No one has all the expertise or capacity to make inclusive housing happen. We need to work together with people and organizations that have experience in community living, housing, financing, and planning. Please remember to include people with diverse abilities when working on your community housing plans. We also want to be included in new housing development work. As we have expertise and knowledge that would be an asset to designing things like accessible units, as well as putting key input to key features to ensure inclusivity. We are often left out of the housing plans because people think we are looked after somewhere else.
Thank you for having us here today. We hope that you are as passionate about exclusive housing as we are. We are asking for builders to include 3 to 5 units for those eligible for CUMI Living BC. We all deserve to live in homes that are safe, affordable, and live in community where we truly have a sense of belonging.
Thank you again for having us here today. Please contact our housing lead, Teru Tamarin, to discuss how you can build a more inclusive community. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. Walking through. Council, do you have any questions for Councillor Ogun?
Thank you. So I have a few questions. The first one is regarding your eligibility requirements. Can you expand of what a person needs to, what kind of requirements they need to meet in order to get your housing services?
Yes, thank you. My name is Teru here. I'll answer that. And so for some reason, my picture's not coming up, but hopefully you can hear me okay. So we have an eligibility process. So individuals with a diagnosed developmental disability, so generally an IQ below 70 can meet eligibility through our developmental disability stream. And we also have a secondary stream called the Personal Supports Initiative stream. And their individuals have an IQ generally above 70, but they have autism spectrum disorder or fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And so we do have specialized, they're called facilitators that help with the eligibility process. So again, it's for adults 19 and over who can be eligible for our services across British Columbia.
Thank you. So that means that people undiagnosed because of the long waiting period will not be able to get your services, correct?
We have to have the confirmed diagnosis through a psychoeducational assessment, but we can support hopefully making those connections. And I know there are delays with getting those assessments done, but yeah, the facilitators can help navigate those channels because I know it can be challenging.
Thank you. And the last question, it's about your shelter allowance. It says $500. So for people with disabilities, they are allowed to make approximately $15,000 per year. that is gonna be deducted from this allowance? Is that how that works?
I think that the allowance for the working allowance has gone up. I'm not sure exactly what it is at right now. There is a certain threshold, but I think it has increased more than the $15,000. Yeah,
I think it went to 600.
I
yeah.
thought it was 2,000. That could be.
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit more now. But at a certain threshold, it would be deducted. But yeah, I can get you that specific information.
Thank you.
Counselor Egan.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting and probably much needed in our area. However, with your presentation today, what are you expecting that our council could do for you? Like, do you have certain developers that are interested in building and providing inclusive housing?
I think our main objective is just to communicate obviously the need just for the inclusivity, and when there are buildings going up in the communities, we're hoping for the deeper subsidized units, because even if there is like affordable housing, it still doesn't meet the threshold to.
I think we just lost you.
She could.
Limitations of individuals in their funding for shelter allowances. So, as new projects come up, just continuing the conversation and advocating for the deeper subsidies. And yeah, that's our aim, definitely.
Thank you. Would your program be, or whoever your funders are, would they be able to provide funds for developers to include lower income?
That's a great question. So with CLBC, our mandate is to provide supports and services. So our specific mandate isn't housing. And so that's kind of where the challenge lies. We do partner a lot with BC Housing, and we work in partnership with them because CLBC actually can't own property or hold property. And so we partner then with BC Housing, but we do certainly have different types of agreements and partnerships with developers and nonprofit housing organizations across the province to allow for those partnerships. And so those can be, formal agreements or more informal agreements. So we can provide the supports and services for individuals to be successful in those apartment units. So providing like outreach and life skill supports. And then newly, CLBC actually is working and has developed a small rental subsidy as well as a kind of a pilot project. So which has been helpful, but it's a small pilot project at this point in recognition of the big discrepancy between, again, the shelter portion and rental prices out there. So we do, so we're the Crown Corporation that funds the service providers in the communities to deliver the frontline services. So we have partnerships with the frontline delivery services, and we're trying to reach beyond that with our new team, the housing team, to work on those partnerships with developers. So that's fairly new for us because, again, we don't specifically do housing, but we recognize the big need for it. So we are kind of at the beginning stages of forming relationships with municipalities and developers and nonprofit housing organizations. So it's a new movement on our part.
Thank you.
Counselor Charney.
Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. Could you tell me, do you know how many inclusive housing units are in Merritt currently?
I'm not aware of the specific numbers in Merritt, and we don't have like our housing in Merritt for the more traditional models as well is we don't have as many as I mentioned. Yeah, no, we find out. In terms of like even group homes, we only have about one or two service providers that provide the frontline services for our individuals in Merritt, and that's something that we are working on. And we do have some, like we call them cluster spaces. So it's when individuals live in apartments on their own, but have that outreach support. So we do have some partnerships throughout the community, but I don't have the specific numbers, but I can get that information as well.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Richard.
I was just wondering if sometimes in smaller communities where there's less apartment building availability, if sometimes people will rent basement suites through CLBC, or if they ever do shared accommodation, or if they're just encouraging single occupancy units.
Yeah, I mean, that would be wonderful as well as, I do understand in smaller communities, there is the challenge of, even just finding rentals. But again, it's the challenge of just the shelter allowance and rentals in communities being that much higher even for basement suites. But, yeah, it's something
That's
that,
something new.
But it has to be accessible.
yeah.
So if somebody who is in a wheelchair and can't get into their basement suite, that's not right, I think, for us. I'm not saying basement suites are bad, but it has to be accessible for people to get into and out of and be able to get into the shower and out of the shower
So
without having a 24-hour live-in support. So a lot of us, like with Tony and I, we live on our own and we love being on our own.
mhm.
And it's easy. Like for me, mine is not mine is a developmental disability. But now as I'm getting older, I'm having troubles getting into a tub to have a shower. So now the place that I'm living has a nice walk-in shower, which is wonderful for me. So being in, like going to a hotel, I have to have an accessible unit where I can get into the shower, no problem. So we need accessible units. And even for people who are in wheelchairs or people who are born shorter, counters are also another hard thing for them to be on because it's high. So there's a way we can have movable counters for even for seniors who are still sitting in their who are getting into wheelchairs or you can't reach certain heights. We want it for safety for everybody, not just for people with disabilities.
Accessibility is really important. Accessibility is really important
Yes.
and safe.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. We talked about as we build 3 to 5 units, should be or to make available. If we're talking about like a 6-story apartment building, is there a certain area that would be better than most, or does it really matter? I'm just curious.
I think just in terms of location is always helpful if it's near, like Tony presented, being close to like bus routes and transportation is always helpful and closer to the city center, where individuals can potentially walk places or their short commutes to get to places.
Um,
The other thing
sorry.
the thing I'm curious about is, would most of these need to be on the first floor or second floor, or does it matter? Or
These are
Sorry to interrupt, Tony. I think it doesn't matter what floor as long as there's an elevator.
okay. Okay, I was just wondering. Thank you.
I think sometimes too, I can think of in Kamloops, there are some individuals who live on, not the first floor, and they do have some mobility and accessibility challenges. And there's always those kind of like safety planning pieces that go into that. Like, what if the elevator's out? How can we plan for that? And, different strategies of support. And sometimes for those individuals who have very compromised mobility, then having the ground floor accessibility, it would be important. But, yeah, there's always ways we can kind of implement some safeguards as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Thank you for your presentation. Any other questions, council? Not seeing any. Thank you very much for attending tonight. We appreciate it. And
Thank you for having us.
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Thank you.
you bet. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 6.1 unfinished business, presentation of draft 2026-2030 financial plan. This item is referred from the December 16th, 2025 special meeting of council. So I'll read the recommendation after, or I guess I could do it now. Recommendation that council receive this report and presentation on the draft 2026 financial plan for information and discussion purposes. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Baxter. So do we want to pick up where we left off? Hopefully we can remember where that was. So, Councilor Charney.
So I'm a little confused here. Is this for information only, or are we going to start delving into the nitty-gritty of the budget
This is
tonight?
to finish because we didn't remember we had to carry it over. It got late.
Oh, right.
So we're finishing off
Okay,
that
so
presentation.
we're not getting into the nitty-gritty.
Nope, this is the presentation.
Can't remember where we left off.
I would need some direction from council as to what that means. Because we need to understand what you're looking for. So we did the lunch and learn this fall, which we discussed that we would pool both presentations from last year into one meeting. This document has the content from both those meetings last year. So I need to understand what that means.
Okay, for me, I have a booklet here that I want to make it clear from the start. When I ask something, there's no criticism on anybody's part. It's me. I need clarification so that I can go back to taxpayers and say, this is why this was done. So I need more clarity on things. It was interesting on the news tonight, Port Coquitlam got their taxes down to 1.95 by going line by line and scrutinizing each item and getting their taxes down. So I personally would like to see we have a Saturday or we have an afternoon meeting where we start delving into each department. As I say, I've got numerous questions on different things. And, I would like some answers to those. So if I start doing this tonight, we'd be here till midnight.
Well, I think
So
this is just to finish up the presentation
That-
from the departments.
Then that's fine.
And then
with me.
after
Then I
that-
would like to
After
skip-
that, we would move into a more fulsome discussion of what council would like to see. So council's comfortable when we get to a point where we make a decision. Councilor,
Okay, fine.
oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm assuming we're going to continue from where we left off.
So
And
we do have a few updates to share and then
Sure.
pick up with infrastructure. So the intention, at least for now, is to decide, is this a plan that council is comfortable taking for public engagement to an open house? And if we're okay to get that far, then that is scheduled for January. If there's additional sessions that are required to discuss that public input and then have more detailed questions to be able to make decisions in February, then that direction can be made. So we need to know, at least in principle, is this close enough that you're willing to go get public input? That's the stage in the process that we're at tonight.
so for myself, I feel that we're at a point where taking it to public input after we go through the rest of it will then give us some idea of what people are looking for. And then we can come back and we can retool. Not that we were going to accept this as it is, we know we're not going to. But I think having the public, like we had last year, where we had the 25 choices and we had the fulsome discussions of everybody. So going to an open house, understanding that this is a work in progress. I think that's, for me, that's my understanding where I'd like to go with Councillor Charney.
For me, it's, I don't feel comfortable taking it to an open house. That's me.
Yep, that's fine. Councillor Hogan.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment with Councillor Charney. I feel that we are not there yet. I think that we need to, get into more details on the budget so that we can be presented and answer any questions at the open house.
Okay. So I guess at this point, the discussion we should probably have is finish what we've started, then discuss what we want to do at the end of what we started. So let's just finish. Well, CFO will know, he's got some update. Oh, CL.
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. I guess to clarify what we've been talking about a little bit, this is sort of that first cut of getting through everything. My hope is that we'll be able to finish up here and give you a better understanding where all the departments are. I really want to move to an initial open house to help gather information based on where all the balls are right now. Because in order to get you the right information from the public and from staff and whatnot, as to what may or may not be more important, we need everything there. And everything that we've got here now, I would hope would go to the first open house if we're going to go in that route. And then we can go and retool. But I think in order to get you the information that you need, we need to take as much of the program the way we have it to that open house. And we did try and schedule it for, was it the 29th, I believe?
Yeah.
And my goal for that anyways, at least what I think we're all at, is to gather as much information based on what we have. We're planning some different engagement techniques for the public so they can provide you feedback on how things look to them. This is all about getting you the information. If you want to move to a nut and bolt session after that, you're going to have everything that you need. We'll take notes at the open house and provide you that information. So that's my hope and how this process will run. And then we can work down into the nuts and bolts after the fact.
Councilor Regan?
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering if between now and the time that we come out with our financial plan, are there any other capital expenditures being planned between now and when the budget time is over?
Seal?
I believe the only thing that we're planning for this year is incorporated in this, less whatever you decide isn't important to you at that point. And I don't believe there's anything coming up that we're not aware
Well, I
of.
would just like to suggest that, and I don't know whether I have to wait till the motion section, but I think that we should put a moratorium on all capital expenditures until this budget is done, so we can know exactly where we stand.
Councilor Richard?
I know that we all have questions on everything like that, but I think the main idea is so that we can start ordering projects and pieces, whether it be the columbarium for the cemetery or making sure that we put the deposit for the vac truck or the ladder truck in 2030, because I think some of that's time sensitive. So I can appreciate that everybody wants more time, and I agree. But I think if maybe I'm wrong, but having this in principle so that we can put the deposit on the equipment that's going to be ordered, because it's going to take a long time for delivery. So I would like to go over it more, maybe for more detail in some of the items in the budget, but I think that the idea for going to open house would be good to get the input from the public. Because even if it's not what we think, then we'll get the comments and then we can make the changes as we see fit in February.
Councilor Hogan?
Thank you. So I see the benefit of having the open house now. Although in past years, council has chosen different areas where we can be there and answer questions. Again, at this point, I don't feel like I am ready to answer any questions from the public. So if we want to have the open house by the 29th, I think that it's needed a lunch and learn something that we can, determine who's going to be talking about what if specific areas. We can get more familiarized with the budget, and then we can have the open house. But again, that's still it's the 13th, so it's possible if we want to aim to have the open house on the 29th.
Thank you. Councilor Jordan?
But I think we have to be careful, Councillor Escher, about ordering anything before we've approved it. Because it could be that, I know that the fire truck and all that, but other things, maybe we don't approve it. So that's one thing we have to be careful about ordering before it's being approved.
Councilor Richard?
Well, the concern is the availability of some items. If there's something that's deemed critical, the sooner that you put your order in, the better, because sometimes it's the availability, especially with the instability in the US right now. So that's my only concern, is if we wait too long, it could be harder to get some supply items. Because I mean, even part of the report talking about the Civic Center chairs, I think it was in 21 or 2020 where we skipped ordering some of the chairs because of the cost during COVID. So in prior years, waiting cost us money. So that's my only concern. Is I appreciate your comments and we have to go through it, but there's some things where you have to kind of get your order in so you're not delayed.
Seal?
If I may, thank your worship. Two things there. The holding up on things, we'll get to on the second thing. Regarding the open house, like I said, my wish is that this is going to be an information gathering. I don't expect you to answer a pile of questions. What I'm hoping you'll do is engage with the public on what we've brought you and gather information on what's important. I don't expect any of this to be decisions at this point. I'm really hoping that the engagement is going to get you the information of what's important to people. You'll be able to look at everything that we have. I don't expect you to explain it at all. We will be there to give you assistance on what the projects are and help guide you through those conversations. That's how I'm hoping it'll work. That way you'll be able to move forward really confident in what you've heard in the public and what you have on paper to start thinking about. Might be a little bit of a departure from what you've seen in the past. To me, this is about getting you as much information based on everything we put in front of you from everybody possible, and then working it down to nuts and bolts after that. I don't expect questions to be answered at this point. Now, regarding the moving forward with anything, we are not moving forward anything unless it's already in progress. So we have stuff that was funded last year that's in progress, that is continuing. Anything that's coming up for the 26 budget, that's new money in 26 or past that. If we need to move on something earlier, and you'll see one thing tonight regarding the building, we're going to be asking you for that specifically, one item at a time, as it becomes time critical. Everything else waits until you approve the budget. So if it's a renovation thing that we don't want to lose half a year on, we'll ask you for that in advance if you agree with it. If you don't agree with it, we'll wait, and we'll worry about dealing with that stuff later in the year. Choice is yours 100%. We're going to bring you the critical items that we think need to move earlier. As we identify them, then they're time critical, and hopefully you can make a decision one way or the other on that at that time. But nothing's moving forward that's new money other than operational things, but definitely not on the capital until it's approved one way or the other. Okay.
Councillor Sherman.
Do we have a date set where we can start delving into budget a little more in depth? Do we have?
That was going to
anything?
be your direction.
Mhm.
We get through this, we get through an information gathering open house. You tell us what you see from there and where you want to go.
So you
it
said
could-
the open house is the 29th?
If you want to do a Saturday or two or 10 at that point, and go through this line by line. If that's where you want to go, 100%, we're with you. If you want to approve this tonight the way it is, it's not, okay, that's fine as well. But I want you to drive this thing, but I want you to have as much information about what's important to people and what you see in the document. And believe it or not, when you go through it, you're going to see we've cut things back quite a bit already. We haven't looked at a lot of new stuff. We're trying to clean things up this year and move towards keeping that tax rate down as instructed. And we're only focusing on things that are fairly critical or things that are already in progress and just carrying them on. So hopefully that's the message, but happy to go through things in more detail. But I'm hoping to get you that information at the open house by conversing with everybody, and then you drive the process from there. And we got lots of time to work on that. This is about getting information.
The open house is not on the calendar. It's not on the Outlook calendar.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay.
So this is kind of the way council mentioned last year, how they'd like to see it to go. Information sessions, more information, more meetings, talking about things that we all wanted to, we felt last 2 years that maybe we didn't have as much involvement. So what the conversations that we had last year felt like this year was the year where we delve as deep as you want to go. What's the date that we have to have all of this done by, CFO?
Your bylaws have to be adopted by May 14th.
So this again is not a one size fits all. It's a custom job. It's whatever you want it to be. So with that, I think we'll continue with where we were. And I hand the floor to CFO.
Okay, so I'm going to quickly backtrack to one of the first slides on page 27 of your package. 27 in the introduction section. So that graph was prepared to try and walk through the pressures and the mitigations. Second page of the introduction. So last year for 2026, we had premised a 6.9% tax increase for the year in last year's plan. The intention of that graph was to walk through the sources of pressure on that rate and our mitigating strategies that brought us down to a tax increase of 4.5%. Since that time, you'll have seen communication from Mayor Getz that BC Assessment has deferred at least a year on their changes related to pipeline valuations for municipalities across the province. So instead of a 28% reduction in class two assessed values that we would have to pass on to residents and businesses, there's at least a 1-year stay on that. So within this graph, the very first wedge that was a cost pressure or tax rate pressure for us was the pipeline assessment. And that was an increase in tax rate of 0.6%. So for 2026, at least, that wedge can be removed. So that's an update from when we met in December. So before we turn things over to Pranesh to address some project questions, and then we'll pick up with infrastructure. If we can use infrastructure as a guide with some comments on what you might be looking for, that will be helpful to me. So for example, within the infrastructure section, we already have line by line listings of all capital across the city. We've also integrated views in which we break down things by both a line item and a service level basis. So those discussions were after the open house last year. We did that meeting in February. They've been prepared in advance this year. So breaking down by service, whether it's solid waste, snow clearing, etc., is available. And then the line item breakdown is available in the pie graph, whether you want to look at it by salaries, materials, electricity, etc. So as Mike is presenting, if there's things that you need more detail on, if you can use infrastructure as a guide to point out some of those things, that will be helpful to me moving forward in the process. Turn things over to Pranesh.
Mr. Jani. What page would Mr. Pranesh be on at this point?
Thank you, Worship. I'm gonna provide some clarity regarding the question that came up in December 16, 2025 council meeting regarding financial feasibility analysis. And if you recall, when we had a COW meeting in October 2025, the staff introduced the planning tools, inclusionary zoning and density bonusing or density benefits as they're available to address affordable housing. They can bring more affordable housing and special needs housing in the community. So in April 2024, province directed that local governments in BC can choose to adopt inclusionary zoning bylaw to require a new residential development to include a certain number of units as affordable housing units. For example, if certain developer wants to build a 100-unit apartment building, then 10% of that building can be used as an affordable housing or special needs housing units. Density bonusing is a slightly different tool. Density bonusing, or it's also called as density benefits. It's also another tool that provides a developer with an option to build with a higher density in exchange for providing amenities or affordable housing. So if a developer wants to build a community amenity like a community garden or a daycare facility, then he can build with a higher density. So if the allowable density is 100 units, then he can have 10 additional units because he's building a daycare that will allow him to include more units in the apartment building. Now, as per the Local Government Act Section 48.2 and 482.7, in adopting and amending in inclusionary zoning or density benefits bylaw, a local government must do a financial feasibility analysis. Now, there are certain items that has to be addressed in that analysis. The FFA, which is the financial feasibility analysis, must take into the consideration the local housing market conditions, the cost of residential development, gross floor area that is required for residential development, tenure of the affordable units, such as whether it can be rental, whether it can be strata, length of time of affordable units, the degree to which different factors affect the feasibility of meeting the conditions. So there is a whole parameters or list of parameters that has been stated in the legislation itself. And any other prescribed matters or local planning frameworks such as OCP zoning bylaw in this matter. So basically, this analysis will inform and ensure that the bylaw requirements, the bylaw that we're gonna draft for inclusionary zoning or density benefits bylaw, they are properly tailored with the local market conditions and inform us about required density bonusing and inclusionary zoning.
Councillor Chan.
Sorry. So
Okay, so I would like to know what happens if we don't do this? So I contact Tony Luck and I say, okay, Tony, what happens if we do not do this, the feasibility analysis? He said he doesn't know. So he was going to look into that
Mhm.
because, I'm just wondering if it's just money that the government is requiring us to spend, and does it really need to be done?
yeah, so inclusionary zoning, that's an optional tool. That's not a legislative requirement, right? So we can skip that. But the density bonusing bylaw, that is required by the legislature because the province made some changes in the legislation. So that is if we are trying to amend because right now in the zoning bylaw, we have a section which talks about density bonusing, right? And this particular section was enacted in 2020 or 2022, I'm not quite sure. So I'm not sure whether when this section got enacted, any analysis has been done or not. So that's why the province is asking or requiring municipalities to do. So like when you want to have a planning tool to allow density bonusing or density benefits, you have to conduct some kind of analysis which is based on local housing conditions and local housing market. We currently don't have that information. So if we want to choose a random number that, okay, let's allow 5% density bonusing to this area, that we cannot do that, in my opinion. We need some background information to us so that we can determine whether we want to allow more density bonusing in the downtown area or whether we want to allow site-specific density bonusing or things like that.
Well,
So
if we got rid of the inclusionary zoning regulations,
Mhm.
how does that affect that 75,000?
That will reduce the scope of the project, so that might basically reduce the cost of the project. But I requested at the higher end of the budget, so that's why we requested the maximum amount. But if we exclude inclusionary zoning, because it's an optional tool, it's not a legislative requirement, then we can potentially reduce the requested budget amount.
You don't know how much.
I'm not sure how much. We've been talking with some consultants and getting some numbers, so we can provide some more updates on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to give you a quick example about how these tools work. So currently, right now, we are one of the developers is building an apartment building on Conklin Ave, right? So right now, it can be financially viable to build with the allowable density in the absence of density bonus. So right now, the developer is not using any density bonusing incentives because he's just putting up market rental units. He's putting 100 units. Now let's assume that the developer is proposing 100 units and 10 additional units granted as a density bonus because the developer is also building a daycare. Now, constructing and operating a daycare can significantly increase the project cost, right? And does not generate the same level of revenue as residential units. To reasonably offset the cost of building the daycare and ensure projects remains financially viable for the developer, the developer should be permitted to construct 10 additional units, right? So the goal of the developer is that at the end, he wants to create some baseline profit and he wants to recover the cost of construction, lands and financing and all that. So that's why the density bonusing incentive will help him to generate some profit. And also for us, it will help that we will have a daycare facility and then we will also have an apartment facility as well. So he can also provide an affordable housing units. For example, out of 100 units, the developer can provide like 10 units as an affordable housing units. And then we can have a covenant and that covenant can run for 20 years or 30 years. So yeah, so that's what the financial feasibility analysis will inform. That it will inform us how much density bonusing we should be allowing in the city. Do we want to have a specific site-specific density bonusing? Do we want to have more density bonusing in the downtown area, or things like that? So we need that information to make informed decisions. We cannot just randomly pick numbers and put it in the policy or in the bylaw.
Councilor Baxter.
If you get a feasibility study, how long does that last for before you have to do another one?
That's a great question, which I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm not a land economist, so I'm also new to this concept. I know how it's gonna work in future, but like we need a proper consultants to identify those requirements and tell us. But I would think that they will, in their recommendation, they will provide that how long this analysis can be used for.
CAO.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I would say very much like, things like our DCC bylaw and just about anything we're working with right now, that these are living documents that need to be reviewed on a regular basis. Once the format is laid out for how the feasibility is accounted for, there's probably a 2 or 3 year period where staff can take a look at things and make minor adjustments before we have to go to a larger one if the economy's changed a little bit and some of the overall demographics have changed. So there's probably some logic that says it's going to sit for a number of years as we keep an eye on it. And then, yes, it would have to be renewed like most of our statutory documents do.
Councilor Sharp.
I was just wondering, what is part of the inclusionary zoning regulation? Sorry, what inclusionary? Well, in the financial feasibility analysis where it says density bonus and inclusionary zoning. Yeah, so those are two tools. Inclusionary zoning is one tool. It has different sets of requirements, and the density bonusing is another type of tool. So inclusionary zoning is an optional tool that we can use to bring more affordable housing or special needs housing. And for that particular tool, there are certain parameters like GFA, gross floor area, and tenure of the affordable housing. So there are different set of parameters for both the tools. Now, inclusionary zoning, the interesting thing is inclusionary zoning can basically they can potentially deter the development, because it will become, once we make an inclusionary zoning bylaw, it will become a requirement. So that means that whenever a developer comes with a project, they have to have certain percentage as an affordable housing units. So that's basically one of the reasons why it can potentially deter development, but we don't know. We need to do the analysis to ensure that whether it's going to work in our community or not. It may work pretty well in Lower Mainland, where the cost of land is really high and they can always have more units as an affordable housing. So it may work very well in Lower Mainland, but not sure whether it will effectively work in Meriden. That's sort of my. And if we have that as part of the study, it doesn't mean that it has to be a part of the bylaw. Like if we go with the density based housing, can we go one or the other as a tool? Yeah, once we have some information or guidance or recommendations in the analysis, then we can basically because that in analysis will tell us whether we want to have a pretty general bed density throughout the city, or do we want to have a site specific density bonusing, right? So for example, I would think we probably want to allow more density in downtown, and then the areas that have a potential to grow. So some communities are doing that way. They have identified certain areas, and they have in the OCP they have created development benefits area. So they have done that. I think Chilliwack has done it that way. Yeah, and accessible units or something. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, thank you. I was just wondering, and I'm going to sound repetitive, but have you compared our this plan type of feasibility study with other similar sized communities? Not
many communities have done this. I think Chilliwack has recently adopted new OCP, and they have created a program, incentive program. Like, so they have in the new OCP they have identified certain areas that they want to focus on, and then have more density bonusing on those areas. I can look back in their statutory documents and provide more information on that.
But Chilliwack isn't the same size as us, though.
Yes, but I think there is province has given a deadlines to finish this work, and the deadline is June 30, 2026. So I think some of the communities have implemented it, but not community of Merritt size. I haven't come across a community which is similar size in Merritt, and they have implemented that. So any further questions, clarifications?
Nope. Thank you. Who's up next? I think we did that already, didn't we? No.
Right now. Water?
Steve?
So without me jumping through most of these graphs that CO, hang on, the terminology right. Director of Finance. I have trouble with acronyms, sorry. Has put together on all these things. I was expecting to deal more with sort of what the projects in the capital side are. Obviously, most of the operational dollars and whatnot, you're dealing a lot with people and pretty standard amounts. And it's all largely rate based for what we're charging for the water and the sewer. Under the water capital, obviously, we're still working on the water meter project. I expect the bulk of that to wrap up, and it is a carryover project that was previously funded. And the bulk of the project should wrap up sometime around March this year. And then we're gonna have to make some decisions about some very specific finishing in certain areas, depending on where we get to with the overall program. And we're expecting to be somewhere in that 90% in compliance somewhere around the end of March. And then we have to make some decisions as to where we're going from there and how we're gonna handle the rest of it. Good news on the pipe bridge replacement. We may have talked about this a little bit already. It's a carryover project. We've had some good success on that, challenging the status quo on how projects get run. And we ended up directional drilling a pipe up to that reservoir. And by doing some modeling work, we were able to upsize the pipe to the reservoir. And the next part of that job is to pull the bridge out off the river. And we're going to abandon that connection across the river entirely. Overall, we're probably going to be, I think that project budgeted at 900K initially. And I'm hoping to be finished sub 500 when we're all done. So we should have very significant savings on that project. And that was through challenging the way things were going together over the course of time as we learned a bit more. Very much like what Pranesh had discussed about, with these studies and feasibility analysis, we get good information. We can make better decisions. We usually budget based on conventional ways of doing things. We don't get what we like. We ask a few hard questions, make a few changes, which leads us to the Quilshena Alley water main. That one we had tendered this last year and tried to get going on it. It came in well over budget. So using the same philosophy as the pipe bridge replacement and the line up to the reservoir, we've asked that directional drilling contractor to come back and just drill a pipe in for me. And we're gonna be, well, we should be easily well under budget on that by the time we're done as well, just by challenging how we're doing it. And the beauty of what we're saving money on that project on is we're moving the pipe over, because with the drilling, we're able to get closer to other things rather than open cut. So we're able to move our connection point over, keep the existing line live while we're doing all the other work, and then slowly cut all the services in. And we don't have to do a whole bunch of expensive water supply to a number of residents while we do a bunch of ditching. Hydrants are an annual replacement project, so we budget, and we're a little bit behind on this, but we're budgeting to do a lot of hydrant replacements as they're aging out and requiring replacement. The water master plan update is currently in progress. We're working on it. not going super fast. The horsepower on that particular project with the consultant is a little bit light. We're definitely hoping we're gonna get that delivered by May of this year. They're working on a bunch of modeling right now.
Councillor
Wa-
Sharn. Oh, sorry, Councillor Sharn.
Oh, you're finished?
No,
No, but go ahead.
Oh, I'll wait till he's finished.
well, then turn your light up.
Oh, well, I was just giving you advance warning.
Sorry?
Water valves, again, that's sort of an operational thing. We're a little bit behind on replacement of valves throughout the city. As you notice, a few times we've had water breaks where we've had to shut probably more blocks down than what probably we would have expected. By getting our valve replacement program back up to par, we'll be able to isolate certain areas a lot more without taking down extra blocks, trying to find something that works. The Thorpe water main looping, that's up just off of, well, I guess Thorpe up by the highway. That's fairly close and adjacent to where the new sewer line came down. And we have an opportunity in that area for about 60 meters of pipe to connect to the new water main that's out there over towards the subdivision area and get that looped, which will provide backwater through that whole subdivision. Should we have an issue on one side of it, we can backfeed the other side. So that's a project we want to move forward on this year. It's pretty small. The reservoir inspections, those are a couple of years out, but we're doing those every 3 years. Reservoirs are sitting up on the side of the hill everywhere. We need to do regular structural inspections to make sure they don't come down the hill after it continue putting weight on them. The model maintenance for water, that's looking after our water model, and it provides us two things. It helps us with deciding whether or not we can eliminate a bridge, for instance, on another capital project. It also helps us with the developers as they're working through their design plans and whatnot. We're able to use that to provide feedback on necessary system upgrades and how it's going to impact our systems. So keeping that model up to date on a regular basis is fairly essential. And then the bulk water meter backflow is a project to get a backflow meter into a bulk water, temporary bulk water connection. So when we do temporary connections, we have that ability. Do we have any questions on water capital?
Councillor Sharn.
Cal, I was just wondering why between source and use, there's a $27,000 difference. So for source is 4,124,000, use is 4,097,000. So there is a $27,000 difference. There's also nitpicky, but there's $1,000 difference on operating also. So I'd like that one answered. And also, like water meter project, you've broken, it says carryover, that the 2,105,000. Where does the 750 fall? Is that also carryover? Because it doesn't add up if it does.
I think part of that is carrying over money we expected to spend more last year. It's carrying forward. And if I'm right, the 750 was what we expected to originally to expend in the 26 year. So it's falling a little bit behind time wise. So we're loading money into 2026 that we would have spent in 2025.
Because-
That's correct.
Well, because carryover says
I got it.
3,196,000.
Okay, I butchered it. Okay,
So 750 is not in 2026?
750 is the original plan for 2026.
Okay.
We budgeted to spend 2.25 in 2025. We draw a line in the sand somewhere in the fall that says anything that we haven't spent, we will carry over. And in the introduction section for the entire presentation, it says that at year end, before the bylaw is prepared, anything that gets spent in Q4, we will adjust all these capital numbers. So work has continued on through the fall, October, November, December. We've been working on this for 3 months. So we have to carry over anything that was unspent at a certain point in the fall. And then before the bylaw is prepared, we adjust all of the capital that was in progress for anything that we were able to complete during the previous year.
Okay, because if you take that 750 from the water meter and you take that 50 from the hydrants, that puts your carryover up here well beyond the 3,196,000. Because your other items, your water meter project, your pipe bridge, Oceana Alley. And the water master plan, those add up to the 3,196,000. So if you add those, that other 800,000, I don't know where it goes. Cause it doesn't fit into carryover. And I don't know what no change means. Does that mean you're,
It means you approved it in last year's bylaw, and we're not proposing either a timing change or an inflation change or any change related to that project.
okay? Okay,
So it doesn't have a caveat on here. So last year we had a table that broke out things a little bit differently. Council had asked for a more simplified table that simply added up from start to finish every line of capital. I've tried to maintain some commentary off to the side so that there's a sense of, have we previously approved it? What kind of change, if the change is being considered, whether it's inflationary, timing, a new request, etc.
so if you could just find the 27,000.
So there is a small black bar at the very top of use that probably doesn't have a label on it because it is 27,000 of $4 million. So I will confirm that black sliver is the 27 that you're looking for. Also keep in mind that we spend sometimes up to $10+ million on a single project. So we've got 8 characters or digits there plus 2 for decimals. I can't fit that in on a graph bar. So we convert it into thousands so that we can fit it on the graph. It will result in some rounding when you try and add up at face value the footing versus what we would be carrying in Excel. But I don't have room for 8 digits across the graph. So as a result of that, you will have footing and rounding issues because we are carrying everything in thousands. The graphs are prepared to try and help visualize a story, not for auditing purposes.
Well, I feel smarter now. Thank you. So we move on to sewer now. Similar type of graph, I guess, source and use of funds. The service breakdown and capital. So very little change on the capital side from what you've seen before. We're still working on the compost site safety improvements. There's some carryover and there's some inflation changes and new project that we had planned in previous budget years, which I believe one of them would be the earthworks now that we've done the new water service up there. So doing the earthworks to the site to improve the access road so it's safe. We're still working a little bit on the exit 286, which would be the off-site servicing of water and sewer to that site. It's pretty much just wrapping up and doing the final reporting and getting it closed out. All the construction's done. The Second Avenue siphon repair was envisioned a little while back, so apparently there's a cleaning tool of some sort that broke off at some point down in one of the pipes that go underneath the river. And we have to come up with a solution to get it out of there because we have a regular burping backup issue in that particular sewer line underneath the river. Be nice to get it flowing correctly again. So we've envisioned loosely right now that project's going to be about $65,000 to get that pipe cleaned out. If we get lucky and find a way of getting something out of there without doing too much destructive change outs, we might spend a fair bit less than that. But right now I'm expecting to get heavily into the pipe at this point to do an extraction and rebuild a section of pipe. The wastewater treatment plant implementation strategy is a carryover project that's in progress. That, for your knowledge, was we have a master plan for the wastewater treatment plant. The implementation strategy is about how to get us from where we are to implementing the master plan while we still operate. So we're asking the consultants to take a look at everything that has to be done to that plant and tell us how we get it done while we're still dealing with sewage. And then the sewer model maintenance, very much like the water, is an ongoing thing that we have to budget for every year, which is managing the model for our own benefit and for the benefit of developers, so we can understand impacts of development on the overall system. So pretty minor at that point. Any questions on that? Thank goodness. I got a headache from the water.
Hold on. I'll try.
Nitpicky again. So when you add up all you on your sewer operating budget by line category, comes to 102%. So just because you're rounding up? Okay, okay. No, but I just added the percents up, so I just wondered why it's over. So when you compare your total amount on the other page and this page, it doesn't really add up. It's like $30,000 difference. When you add this up, it comes to 102%. And so when I add all of the percentages up, the amounts, it does these.
Some decimal places would be like
Oh, I don't know if decimal places are.
7.
No, I mean, I don't know how many decimal places 30,000 makes.
I need to know how many is going to help make decisions.
I think this is within the realm of rounding.
Yeah, I am rounding, but
Yeah.
I have just gone on adding the percentages. And the percentages are more than 100. And so if you add all your 61, 16, 11, 8, 3, and 3, you get 102%. And then when you break those down into amounts, it comes to more than what is over on this page.
Yes, so that's why I'm asking how many decimal places. So within this pie graph, how many decimal places do we need?
Did I go to?
So if I send out 5 and you then multiply this total with 5 decimal places on every number, then you will tie to that previous graph,
Really? That'll make $30,000 difference?
possibly. I have checked all. of
Okay,
this,
I'll
so
I'll try it again,
that's
5
the thing.
decimals.
There's no decimal places on this graph, so if that's the level.
Yes,
that
I
we
know
need,
that.
Then I will serve it.
Yeah, but most of them do add up to this in your circle. When I do break them down like this, they do add up to that exactly. Except this.
Send an email to council.
Yeah, they all add up. This one doesn't.
Okay. Wow. 1 second.
It is. Yeah, there's one. You're gonna put 7,000. It is the black hole. Spoke inflation.
And remembering that most of this is visualization on scale for you to look at graphs, right? So when we go through this in a little bit more detail and start producing that nuts and bolts, everything will start tying together. But this is by and large just a snapshot look at things that's rounding, right? Yep. You're a little bit ahead of the curve, I think. Any comments on sewer at that point then?
Nope, I think we're good.
Are we able to move forward to CAO office? Okay, this is a relatively small, hopefully we don't run into any, no, I don't see any black slivers. Good, cool. The So the thing to note on the CAO office, it looks like the bulk of the expenses are in the asset management project, the legal fees for general government administration, and the employee recognition fund that we've consolidated into one so that we don't have all the different departments carrying different budgets for that. The other part of this is a proposal for tourism Nicola Valley, based on the conversations in the past through the MOU that was worked out with them. We're proposing that $50,000 if you're interested in going that route, which would then, between that and putting together the agreement that we're working on right now, would go together with the agreement. So if that's what you're interested in funding with them, that'll be one of the primary decision points, going back to past conversations and dealings with TNV. Any questions there? Don't have to make a decision on it today. We're working our way down to it, so.
Yep. Who's next? CFO.
So the one update that I was going to share with council was in the transit section. So at some point over the last year, council had given direction that we were to negotiate with the TNRD on funding levels as it relates to increasing the sustainability of our transit service. Tonight, I'm pleased to share that to this point, we have agreed in principle on a 177% increase in transit funding for the city of Merritt.
Probably have to keep my head down at the next meeting. So, great work. Push your button. Councilor Chern.
Thank you. So will you reflect this in a new chart for us or just leave it the way it is?
So my intention was to get to a version that we could take to the open house intact where it's been publicly available and presented.
Okay,
We know that there were accumulating changes as it relates to the pipeline assessments, et cetera. My thought would be that we factor in all those changes and any other changes council wants to make in another batch, such that we can get to the open house with a version that's been presented public. So I wasn't prepared to do that for January and was thinking that that would be a February exercise.
perfect.
Sir, any questions in my portfolio?
CFO.
Councilor Baxter.
I want to say thank you for negotiating with the TNRD on behalf of transit.
Yep, thank you. Councilor Chern, your lights on? Thank you. Councilor Egan.
Thank you. CFO, I was just wondering, when you were negotiating with the TNRD, did they talk about what kind of funds they're going to donate for fire and RCMP and all the other things that we go to assist outside our city boundaries?
So our initial letter focused on two areas in terms of transit and recreation. So on the fire side, there currently is an agreement in place. I think there's conversation that can happen when that agreement goes to be renewed, but we are at least in the middle of an agreement as it relates to the fire service. So we focused initially on transit as being something that had to be delivered for this budgeting cycle. Otherwise, there would be potential service level decisions that council would have to make. Given our level of funding for transit operations that operate outside our municipal boundaries in terms of Route 4 with Lower Nicola. So we prioritize that, and then we'd like to focus 2026 on getting the conversation going for recreation and including a capital component within. So those were the priorities that we had established in our letter for now. We understand that there's a range of services that we provide, and we need to progress multiple conversations. We're just going in priority order.
I would just like to suggest or ask if any of the department heads have ever done a cost analysis ratio as to the hours spent and the money that we get from the TNRD in various departments?
I don't know that we've attempted to go down to that level of detail. I don't think we track like usage of the pool and things like that.
So about the pool, I mean, you can't say where you're from every time they come in
Right.
through the door. But we should be able to know how many man hours we're putting, that the RCMP are spending out on the roads as well. I mean, over and above the regular road crews, as well as fire department and maybe even EMC.
I think that level of detail is available with the fire department, given that we have an agreement in place for it.
So
Thanks.
if I may for a second, Councillor, you can, so the fire agreement is a little over 2 years old, I believe. It's a little over 2 years old. It was met with a lot of consternation when it went in. There was a lot of issues, a lot of protesting about it until we had a fire out there where our boys had to respond. Everything changed. We have decided, I think about every 2 years, we would visit it and see if we're still covering it. Because this is TNRD's decision, not ours. CO, what do we call the fire? It's a decision that they've made, but yeah, it's got a name. I can't remember. We talked about it one time there. So TNRD brought this to us. Yeah, it's a mutual agreement. So this is their baby. Now, the conversation on the RCMP, I have brought up several times because one of the things that I did point out at a TNRD meeting, everybody out in the TNRD has an RCMP or a police cost pullout, but we don't see any of it. Nobody seems to know where that goes. So I've asked at TNRD a couple of times to find out where that's actually going. So they're working on that because, to be honest with you, nobody knows where that goes. I'm sure it falls into the provincial general coffers. I'm quite sure of it. But when I do see the fact that everybody in the TNRD is being charged for policing cost, yet we bear the full brunt of over 1,000 calls, that's not working for us. So we need to see something back on that. So we're working on that part as well. I talked with the CFO and the past CAO, and the CFO has looked into, we get billed for a certain amount of things, but there are some things we don't really need anymore or use anymore. So we are looking at paring that down and do we really need some of these services, or are we duplicating and paying them for absolutely nothing? So we have been working on that, not as diligently as we were last year because things kind of have gotten in the way, but we are looking at to make sure that everything that we're getting from the TNRD is exactly what we're paying for and we're not overpaying for it. So we probably will have that done fairly in the next little while because I do believe this year or next year we come up for renewal. And what brought this forward was the fact that Kamloops had a renewal last Christmas and they weren't sure they were going to renew because they had a lot of services that they were paying for that they didn't need. There was a bit of an issue over that. And that's what was the catalyst to get me to start asking questions on this end. Are we getting exactly what we're paying for? So we're working on that. And it's a bit of a tangled weave. So there was some talk. Some people said, well, you know what, we'll just leave TNRD. Well, you can't. Provincially, you have to belong to the TNRD. It's just the way it is. So most communities now are looking deeper into their involvement with the TNRD, what they're paying and what they're getting. And we're doing the same thing. Councillor Etchart.
I think with a lot of the calls that we've been getting, because there's requirement for the fire department to go to a lot of vehicle accidents too, you're going to find that we're having a lot of costs that way. But I was just going to suggest that maybe we consider for our resolutions, which are due by February 28th for SILGA, which we can maybe take to UBCM. We should maybe look at lobbying for police costs for populations between 5 and 15, just to see if maybe we could renew that.
We kind of took that to SILGA last year and UBCM last year, but not as defined as you're asking.
Well, maybe we should ask for the 70, lobby for it to be down to 60 because so many of our communities are having the same issue. But I think the agreement was done in 23 till 26 or something, like a 3-year, because when Laura Nicola lost the fire hall there for the general public, Merit did the agreement, I think it was July 4th, 2022 or
So it was right after we came in because I had a conversation with this then CAO.
It must have been 2020.
But again, this is their process. This is TNRD. This is not ours.
Yeah.
TNRD asked us to do this. So yeah.
Well, most of the residents of Lower Nicola save greatly by, on their insurance by having the Merit Fire.
That's what we're trying to get across.
Yeah, they need, yeah.
Sorry, CFO, back to you.
Okay, so to conclude the presentation, during our audit and finance committee, council identified 3 areas of interest as it relates to reserve contributions. You had asked for some tools to help make some of those decisions and to set some goals. So I have outlined what options might be as it relates to the fire department, for water, and for sewer.
Thank you. Any questions? Who's next? Or are we at the end of our? Okay, excellent. So, thank you very much. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. So we do have a recommendation. The council received the report and presentation on the draft 2026-2030 financial plan for information and discussion purposes. Councillor Etchart, Councillor Ogan, any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. 7.1, Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 2409-2025. We have a recommendation that the Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 2409-2025 be adopted. Councillor Ogan, Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this in front of you as you see it? Nope. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.2, Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 2413-2025. Recommendation that the zoning amendment bylaw number 2413-2025 be adopted. Councillor Etchart. Councillor Petrosi, any questions on this one? As it sits in front of you. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. New business, 2026 draft housing budget. We have a recommendation that council receives the 2026-2027 draft housing budget for presentation at the budget open house. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Petrosi, questions on this for anyone? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.2, advanced approval for capital projects in draft 2026-2030 plan. Recommendation that council approve the capital request in the draft 2026-2030 financial plan for $45,000 to begin renovations of the formerly leased space in City Hall, with the project to be included in the future 2026-2030 financial plan bylaw. Councillor Baxter. Councillor Petrosi again. Questions on this or any of the renovations? Councillor Charney.
I'm kind of wondering how number 3 and 4 fit into adjusting the space. That seems like it's for the whole city hall, that modernization of the filing and records management area to improve efficiency. And number 4, production of detailed asset drawings and floor plans. Maybe number 4 fits in, but number 3 kind of.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. The filing room is part of the downstairs area, and it's a bit of a swamp right now in there with a lot of things sort of mixed around. And we want to try and get better filing organized, at least from the development services perspective, so we can clean some things out of that filing room, so we can then make the rest of the filing better. Right now, it's a bit of an unsafe room because we've got stuff piled to the roof. We've got overloaded filing cabinets that are potentially tip over. So we're looking at trying to swing things around, bring some filing closer that doesn't necessarily need to be in the room, and try and make the existing room better for the filings being used in it. Sort of a general combined benefit. The second question was? Okay. Yeah, I think 4 was the record, so we can keep our record plans up to date for what we've done there. So.
Councillor Ogan.
So you were mentioning this specific agenda item, right? So this is not carryover, so this is a new item and that's why it's brought tonight.
Correct.
The 45,000, so are we talking about that is sufficient amount of money for the scope of work mentioned here, or this is just a started allocation?
We did bring it up a little bit from the initial request when I reviewed it. It's still going to be tight. There's going to be furniture requirements because we have to furnish a new area as well. We're pricing everything out so we can get an idea of exactly where it's at. I think we've got it down to basically just opening up one office in the existing area that creates a breezeway into the new area. Take out a couple of walls, reuse some flooring, and then move some equipment and some IT in there, get the desks in there, and we're gonna be really close. Filing cabinets and whatnot aside, we'll be able to build after that. Once the base work's done, we'll be in pretty good shape.
Counselor Charney.
And this is coming out of facilities reserve. It's not coming out of any other budget.
Yeah, so it's not tax dollars there, it's out of a reserve that's set aside for the facilities. The Director of Finance, do you have a better explanation of what that fund is than I've just made a mess of?
You're fine. Okay. So if you recall from last year, Councillor Charney, there was some insurance proceeds that we had received as we were wrapping up the flood claims. Some of those projects had not been executed on. We placed relevant, or we tried to match as close as possible between the source of the funds and what we were being reimbursed for with the reserve that we were placing funds into. So I think there was almost $2 million that went across the fire hall, facilities, equipment, land improvements, so park spaces. So there was a resolution in last year, might have been early this year, but it was for year end last year, to place some of those insurance proceeds in reserve. So the facilities reserve is a combination of money that had been previously saved there in addition to those insurance proceeds.
And you're saying it's at 715,000.
Correct.
So it's a healthy one. Fine. Good.
Any other questions? Counselor Egan.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just wondering, what do we do with all the equipment and furniture out of the old CPO building?
As far as I know, everything's pretty much still sitting there, waiting for its new life over there.
It's new line.
Yes. You'll see
Could
some,
be like, it could be moldy if by the time we get around to doing that.
everything in there needs to be cleaned and wiped out. We've talked recently, I know, they bought a C-can to help store things in so we can get things, start moving things out, clean them. I know the staff's been working on painting at City Hall right now and trying to get some of these office moves. So they're not focused over there, pulling things out of the building, but over the next number of months, we expect things to be pulled out of the building, cleaned up, stored, so we can start working on the building.
Couldn't it be just repurposed for our uses that we need right now?
Very potential. Depending on what's in over there.
That would be my suggestion.
Yeah, the one thing I do find is one of the modern ways of working, I haven't quite adapted my body to it yet, but the desks that have that ability to either sit down or stand up are gaining a lot of popularity and seem to be having a fair bit of mechanical advantage to people's bodies. Mine hasn't quite seen it yet, and I still just work on the one level, but I pay for it pretty hard too. So depending on what's over there and what the needs of the staff are from an ergonomics basis, those new desks are actually quite cost effective compared to filling something with this massive dark desks that we see in the past. Those things were running, $3,000-$4,000 to set up. I think we can do a heck of a lot less now with these more, what's the right word? Scaled and minimalistic rising desks and whatnot that seem to have a lot less particle board in them. But we'll look at everything for sure. We got to get it figured out and get things moved around.
Any other questions? I have a mover and a seconder on that, no. So do that. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. 8.3 Nicola Valley Women in Action 2025 reporting. We have a recommendation that the January 9th, 2026 report of the Director of Finance entitled Nicola Valley Women in Action 2025 reporting be received for information. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Egan, any questions on this? Any at all? And I think it's safe to say that we probably will be taking The victim service request we did this year, again, to UBCM again. As we did last year and 2 years ago. To continue the conversation about getting victim services better and getting a support service worker here. So we'll continue to do that. So. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.4. Flood Mitigation Department Quarterly Report Q4. Mr. Attorney.
I will have to step out as I have a conflict of interest.
Thank you. The reason is because you are part of the. Yep, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. Closed for now. So, Sean, basically, once a counselor steps out, they step out on everything. We can't pick and choose. You step out on everything when it comes to it. So. Flood Mitigation Department Quarterly Report Q4. We have a recommendation that council receives the 2026-2030 draft mitigation budget for presentation at the budget open house. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Baxter. It's in front of us. We have some people out there. Anybody have a question about it? Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. See? Good information. Somebody can tell Councilor come back in again. That's what happens when you get good information, right? Yep. No, go right ahead if you feel we need to know something. Actually, she'll have to go back out again. Sorry. We're just kidding you. Yeah. Yeah, no, anytime you feel that we need to know something, let's do it. Mr. Sean Strand.
You bet. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I just want to flag one thing, and I know you guys have seen these reports before. This one has an additional page where we're starting to talk about, because it's budget season, where we're talking about budget and et cetera. One change from previous years. So we've put through 60 some million through the department in the last 4 years in terms of like all the water main restorations and some dike works and things like that. None of that has been city funds to date. The province has reached an agreement in principle for this next step, this Dike 129, Dike 130, which they've nominally called $60 million. They're starting to signal that there may be some community contribution to this. I will note literally every single community that has any flood mitigation works has had some kind of community contribution. Abbotsford, Grand Forks, as I've said before, is over $7 million in, et cetera. I don't know what that is, and we're in discussions with them right now. It's not going to be anything for 2026. So for this particular budget, it is covered via federal and there is actually a sliver. Federal funding is a sliver. Provincial funding is the majority of it. But for next year, there may be an ask that'll go to CAO, to CFO when that ask actually comes through, and then of course it'll come to council. But I wanted to signal because that is a change in tone from previously. So you'll see more information on that as it occurs. As you go through these, one of the adoptions here is that this budget goes to the open house. And so these graphs will go to the open house as well. There is one very, very small portion in the capital graph that says under negotiation. 2027 is just under $500,000. 2028 is just under $500,000. That under negotiation point is a best estimate of what a potential municipal ask would be. It is, of course, a very, very small portion of that, but they haven't actually formally asked, so I don't have anything to bring to you or CFO yet. Just wanted to flag that for next year's budget.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Councilor, you can come back, Mr. Strang. Don't be so quick.
I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, I really didn't want to talk about this either, but I'm looking through your report. There's a lot of projects that went on and a lot of communication between yourselves and the Indigenous people. How often did you actually meet with the people, the actual stakeholders? And how much did you involve them in guiding them through what your process was in terms of how much land people were actually going to?
When you say stakeholders, are you talking landowners?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the question through the mayor. With your permission, would we be able to chat about this a little bit later on, perhaps in the council meeting? It may work better with another item,
Okay.
if that's okay. I do have some things prepared for you that I can
Okay,
chat
that's
right
great.
through
Thank
this. Okay.
Can let Wendy back in this time. Did we vote on that? Okay. Just wait for one. It's probably in the can. Here she comes. Psych. Oh, no. Moving on, 8.5 Bailey House 2025 Q4 report. Recommendation that council receive the January 9, 2026 report of the committee clerk entitled Bailey House 2025 Q4 report for information. Councillor Ogun, Councillor Baxter, any questions on this? Way to jump in December there. Goes to show most people are staying home. So all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Notice of motion. Councillor Charney submitted the following notice of motion at the December 9, 2025 regular council meeting. And the recommendation is that City Hall Christmas closure be more in line with other local government agencies, other city halls and local businesses, and a recommendation that the dates of closure be consistent from year to year. So I'll hand the floor to Councillor Charney. Your motion, off you go.
Oh, well, I'm a little confused here.
Well-
I was bringing up another motion.
Well, we'll deal with this one first.
Okay, yeah, I would really like to look at having our Christmas closures standardized with other businesses and other municipalities. I just did random calls to I think it was 10 different communities, and 8 of them close on the 24th and open on the 27th, or if it's the weekend, the day after. Just random calls, different sizes of communities. But 8 out of the 10 were basic business hours of, other businesses within the community. So I would like to look at this and discuss it and have our city hall more in line. The taxpayers are paying for the facility. I think they should be able to come and use it when it's open. So that's my proposal.
Councillor Egan.
Yeah, I was just saying that I don't think that as the recommendation is right here, right now, I don't think it's explicit enough. I think you actually need to put in the actual timeframes and.
Yeah. I think we need to see no,
This for policy.
it's totally up to you. It's your motion.
I would like us to go to policy.
Okay.
Say
And
that.
then, policy, okay, and policy can discuss it and then we can bring it to council.
I think that's probably the best way to go.
Yep, perfect.
Do we have to vote on that? Okay. So the recommendation now is for it to go to policy for further consideration to be returned to council. I do have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And I have another motion.
Now, hold on. I got funny looking faces over there. Seal.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify, so you didn't move, we did not move and second the resolutions that are printed in
Okay.
on the page. So there was no motion on the table at that point. Are you amending the resolution to state that the policy, that council refer this matter to the policy committee and that the policy committee report back on possible
They
Christmas
Exactly. right.
closures?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what the recommendation will be. Okay, and then did we capture the mover and the seconder? Could we capture a mover and a seconder for a resolution like that?
So I imagine you would be the,
For
you move with Councillor Egan second. So Councillor Charney, Councillor Egan.
And everybody is clear what the resolution is?
Yes. Right. or two opposed. Okay. So staying with notices of motion,
I have another one. I would like to send this to policy review and address the situation of the shopping carts. I've had quite a few people phone me and say that there are shopping carts here and there and everywhere, some empty, some full, abandoned with materials in it. I've looked up different communities, what they're doing. It's an ongoing problem. It's not just ours. It's a constant problem. The storage, disposal, it's a big problem. So I was wondering if we could start off at policy review, come up with some innovative ideas and see if we could get a bylaw that has some teeth in it with regards to the ownership of the facility. What is their responsibility with regards to abandoned carts? Because right now there is no ownership. So I would like this to go to policy committee and then policy, then refer it to council.
so first year that we were in, we had quite lengthy discussions about this.
Yeah.
So it is up to the store owners to retrieve their property.
Yep.
Now,
So if they don't,
the RCMP have the ability to take these shopping carts at a moment's notice because now it's considered stolen property. That's what they were doing for a while, and I think possibly that's something we should then now get them to do again. The last thing we want to do is have 75 carts done at the deal, and we don't want to hold on to stuff for 30 days. So I think what we need to do is exactly what we did before, is alert the people that have shopping carts that they need to come and get them or retrieve them on their own. And we have talked about possibly, we even, I think, put in the budget a trailer, so the bylaw officer didn't have to break his back putting these things on. And we're not going to be a delivery service. If we pick up shopping carts, we take them to the dump and we recycle them. It's that simple.
well, that's
Because-
why I think you need a bylaw to have.
Well,
some
I
teeth
do
into it.
believe we have a bit of a bylaw on this at this point, do we not? We hacked this to death
What's the
a year
teeth
and a
in it?
half ago. And we decided that the deal is that these are not owned by the city. These are owned by the people who own the businesses, and they need to get their shopping carts. So,
I can bring forward if you refer to this to the policy committee, we can certainly bring forward the previous council report that went forward for this. I don't believe that the bylaw was amended to deal with the shopping carts. There was a proposal to have a fee in there for retrieval and to invoice people for the service of picking up the shopping carts and storing them for them. I don't think that went forward, so we'd have to do a little bit of research. Okay.
Councillor Etcher.
So we did have this come up before and we had discussed looking at finding the stores by, having a large number out there. But the problem is that we didn't want to penalize the businesses that often contribute to places like our food banks already. The shopping carts, I think they were estimated that the average shopping cart cost was some $800 per cart. But of course they order them in bulk when they get them 100 per store or whatever at a time. And so we didn't proceed with finding. And of course, then we run into the same problem of we have to hold the goods for up to 30 days and allow the person to come retrieve their items. And then if they don't, then they get disposed of. So I think maybe at the next policy or police review, police committee meeting, which we did have, and there's a lot more patrols that are happening because at the December 18th police meeting, that's a lot more patrols have been happening. And so it was positive discussion that we had at the December 18th meeting. I think we maybe just want to focus on enforcement rather than setting a bylaw because our options were trying to put some kind of alarm if it exits the parking lot of the shopping center or different things, but it's hard to enforce that against the store, and we didn't want to really penalize the stores which are contributing to different food groups like the soup kitchen and the food bank. So I think that's what was the outcome of that decision that we did in 2022.
So the other option that we have is the RCMP, when they do take a shopping cart, they can dispose of the items instantly. There's no 30-day hold. And I agree with Councillor Etcher. I think we need to work more on enforcement Because these shopping carts, it's theft. They've been taken off the site. But also too, we kind of got the things settled. People were chaining them up and now I see they're all over the place again.
Yeah.
So I think we need to raise this again, first with the businesses saying, hey, do something with your carts. And then we need to talk to the RCMP about enforcement, because that way we don't have to take them down and we don't have to store their items for 30 days. And then the city work charge get broken into and people want their stuff back. So that's what we need to. So do we want to move this to we're moving this to policy? Or
Worship. So this is a new resolution that's been put on the table and brought forward, so it'll be voted on at the next council meeting.
right, 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Reports from council. Oh, sorry.
I just want to reiterate my earlier notion that I didn't know if I had to bring it up in this section or not. That I would request a notice of motion for a moratorium on all capital expenses until the financial plan is nearly complete, or until the next election.
Okay, I
Or
guess
that
we'll
might be
move
going a
that.
little stretched, but
We'll have that at the next meeting.
I don't know if you noticed that I voted against the CPO money, or not the CPO, but the yes. Thank you.
Okay, reports from council. Councilor Charney. Oh, not you. Reports from council. Any councilor will do. Councilor Egan.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot to do because I was really, really busy with the other events going on in town. And I went to the to Central School last Tuesday night to listen to more information about why we may or may not be closing one of the schools in town. And it was interesting. I thought it was a little repetitive, but it's always good to hear from new people that are at these meetings and hear their viewpoints. So it was good. Thank you.
Councilor Bichard.
Yeah, not a lot since the last meeting, of course, because of the holidays, but I mean, we did have the meeting on the 16th where we discussed some of the budget items, and then we had the police committee meeting, which was good to hear from the RCMP to see that they're doing a lot of patrols downtown and trying to focus on the concerns that we have as well. It was positive. I think we're on track to have the same number of calls, a little bit higher than 2024. So there was some notes, but anyway, also Silga, they had two meetings, one last week about the board meeting, and a lot of things are progressing, and I'm happy to say that the BC's burning video will be presented for our Silga group to see, so that'll show the benefits of forest maintenance. And there's some other good plenaries that are being planned for Revelstoke for us, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, and one more thing I forgot. The museum is going to be hosting Heritage Month next month, so they have some activities, and they got a recent grant given by the TNRD, and so there'll be some new handheld pieces so that people can kind of almost do their own self-directed tours coming up, and so those items have to be programmed. So that's something new at the museum, and everybody's of course encouraged to go see what's new. Some of the displays are really interesting, and I think people would enjoy it. Thank you.
Councilor Charney.
Goes back a long way. December 11th, we had our ESS Christmas dinner at the Coldwater, which was an enjoyable night. December 12th, along with Councillor Etchert, we took first aid and practiced on poor old Annie. And I'm pleased to say that we both passed our first aid. Kudos to us. I went to the Central School meeting also. I think there were some excellent presenters. There's a lot of concern with regards to what school is going to be closed. the safety for kids walking from A to B. And a lot of people are really upset. But when you look at the numbers, you can certainly see that we are low in numbers. The school has to be closed. And it's just which school, the lesser of the two evils. That's, and I wouldn't want to be in their position. But it was a very lively meeting. There were some people that were really upset. But yeah, it was interesting. And going to Councillor Etchart's BC Burning, or was that Egan? Etchart? I had asked our previous CAO if we could watch that as a council, and it never went anywhere. I don't know if council is interested in looking at that or wait till Silgo, but that might be an option for us to see. It's an excellent video. Yeah, that's me.
Councillor Logan.
Thank you. So January 7, I attended the first meeting for the Rotary Club. One of the main topics was the Public Land Use Society that was created last year. I think that it's important to know that societies are there to ensure that crown land remains accessible for recreation, resource development, economic growth, and others. So that was interesting to learn about that society. The same day, I attended the Tourism Nicola Valley meeting. And I have to say that not only this organization, I have heard from other organizations saying good things about our new CAO. So I want to say that they mentioned how approachable you are, how flexible you are, and you are a good leader. So I just want to pass those words to you. Thank you.
Yep. Not that flexible behind the desk, but you're getting there. Councillor Petruzzi.
Yep, going back to December 11th, attended the Collettville Elementary Christmas concert. December 12th, we had the staff appreciation dinner at the Civic Center. It was Valley Grays catered that, and it was probably the best meal that I've had. Tony Luck had a town hall on December 13th at the Country Music Hall of Fame. I attended that. December 16th, we had the special council meeting. December 18th, attended the police committee meeting, as Councillor Etchart had mentioned, and January 6th, attended the potential school closure meeting. And Mayor Getz with Councillor Charney and Egan were there. So it was, it did get quite heated, and a lot of very passionate parents out there. And I too can see that the numbers are coming down for the amount of students we have enrolled in our schools. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but thank you.
Myself, everything else we've talked about. December the 11th and 12th, I was at Thompson, TNRD and TNHD, kind of year-end stuff there to wrap everything up. On the 17th, I was at Nicola Meadows, meeting with my monthly meeting with the folks there and bringing them up to date on everything that's going on in the community. On the 6th of January, on the 4th of January, myself, Mr. Sean Strang and CEO Rick Green, we teamed up with a member of parliament from Australia that had come over to look at our flood mitigation and some of the issues that we're having with it, because they're having some issues there as well. And they were brought in by Rotary, and her name was Tamara Smith. She's the MP for Ballina in Australia. And it was, I think it was about a 3-hour tour that we took. We showed her everything, some of the things that we've done. I think she got some good ideas out of what we're doing. And for me, it's always enlightening to know that our hard work of our staff is seen in another country so far away. And these people come to talk to our people about how these things should work. So that was nice to take her around. She really enjoyed the community. I'm not sure how many times she's seen snow, but she didn't have the right footwear on. So we had to guide her all over the place. But it was very nice to see a member of parliament from Australia here. Gas Buddy, Kamloops today, 124.1 as a low and 142.9 as a high. That gas station probably isn't getting too much business. Terrace, right across the board, 131.9. Hope, 129.9 low, 131.9 high. Boston Bar, 138.1 right across the board. Merritt, 132.9 low, 135.9 high. That is it for that. Let's move on. Anybody else? Okay, apparently Councillor Baxter did nothing. Okay, CAO report. We have two things. We have the RCMP monthly update, which I think we all appreciate getting. It sheds some numbers on some things. And the communication report, January, December 2025. CEO, anything you want to throw in there?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, not at this time. We'll bring the bigger report to the second meeting of the month. Get everything all prepared nice and big for you.
Yeah, please. Which one? It's coming up now. Okay. So we're moving on to 12 information items. 12.1, ask wellness letter of support request. We have a recommendation that the staff be directed to draft a letter of support for Ask Wellness. Councillor Baxter, Councillor Etchart, any questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the information items, you have things below. You have the UBCM delegate update, the Nickel Valley Museum Archives, UBCM Canada Community Building Fund, school closure and merit, and RCM calls for service and provincial highways financial impact of municipalities. Anybody want to pull anything out of there? Okey-dokey. Thank you very much. We will then 13 move into a closed session. That this meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements, and section 92BI, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to the negotiations between the municipality and the provincial government or the federal government or both, or between a provincial government or the federal government or both, and a third party, if council considers that this disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality of the community charter. Councillor Egan, Councillor Etchart, Councillor Olgan. All those in favor? 5 minutes. We'll take 5 minutes, everyone.